It always comes to this. More nice shit. There guys, back again to do another tattoo progress update today. Where I last left off, I showed off the session I had with Rick here on the upper stretch, my shoulder slash upper outer bicep area. So, bit of a mouthful. I do have quite a bit of peeling happening here today, and it's a pretty favorable result. The last session healed up really well as well. So I was expecting a pretty good turnout with this one, and I'm really excited to see how these peachy tones look when they're peeled. But I do have peeling happening this morning. It started kind of last night, and so I expect it'll mostly be done here throughout the day. And this is probably like fourth or something passes up there, so we're getting into pretty good results with it. It looked pretty great after the last one, honestly. It looks good, but it was more subtle than I wanted it to be. So if you want an increased result, increase the passes, right? It's not rocket science. It should intuit. But then again, we do have tattooers out there, as I've mentioned in a prior video, telling people to never touch their tattoos up. It will ruin them. So I guess I'm the antithesis of that to some great degree. I'm not going to get off on that tangent too much. I'm sure no one wants to hear me rant. Yeah, I'm very happy with it. And if we have another session this week, then we'll be coming down doing this area here and getting it more up to that level, hopefully. And just continuing in the coming sessions. That was session 65, still within my range of 60 to 80 sessions. We could go a bit beyond that. I honestly wouldn't even care. It's become sort of the I don't know, the back burner, not the back burner project. It's just not as exciting as what else I have going on. I am still excited to keep working on it, and I think it can keep getting better and better, and it will. I think eventually it'll probably be one of the nicest pieces I've ever had, if not, in my own opinion, the nicest piece. But it's a slow burn, so whereas what I'm doing with Terry is more immediately gratifying, and you kind of get that that Christmas morning feeling every session because something big is about to happen. I used to get that with Lee as well. I very rarely have had that with Rick. It's like if you do like some quick one-off thing that makes a big difference, like say when you black out your nipples, or fill in your belly button, or you extend your face tattoo or something like that. Those things are quick things. They don't take a lot of time, and they produce a large dopamine, or produce a visible result that you'll be encountering frequently, and there's minimal effort to get there. I've had that from those sorts of things with Rick, but typically anytime you're working with him, it's slow burn, so you're not getting so much of that instant gratification, and so he's become rather unappealing to prospective clients when there are other artists in the vicinity that can do a similar level of tattoo, maybe not quite as well, but in a fraction of the time. And I find that less and less people care about the differences between an 8 and a 9 in this industry. Most people are happy to take the 8 and forego all the trouble the 9 would cause. And I don't necessarily blame them. It's just that if you're looking for a particular thing in a particular way, there are still some people who are willing to pay whatever it costs, and that does include time to get there. Anyway, I'm going to show off what we did this time, because it will be in the thumbnail here. We very clearly reworked the eye again. This is the 5th pass of color over black on this one. And that's just this version, because as prior stated and shown, This stuff here, the sunflower seeds that people called, the bug eye pattern, that was also several passes over black, which was a blackout cover up of another design. And so that took a few passes, and the design that was in there was a keyhole, and I think it's something like 15 or 16 passes overall over the eye center now. So it is what it is. I have more work to do there. I'm planning on doing more with the actual design around the eye. I don't think I'm going to get rid of this idea, but I think it can be boldened or brightened up a bit to make it more kind of pop or flow better with what's happening around it now. It's on an island, and it's been left that way because I haven't had the best idea for it yet. And it also doesn't look crazy terrible either. I kind of like it. I also kind of like the idea of like this sort of story that's being told of all the different layers sort of interacting. Similarly, like the teeth, people always point out the teeth are the only thing that hasn't changed. And it's like they have changed, but they haven't, right? So these teeth have been tattooed 7 or 8 times. We just did them again this year. But they're just being, brightened and sharpened and tweaked. And whereas there actually used to be a skull in the middle of one of these teeth. A little skull guy hanging off a fucking the chain of a door knocker tattoo I used to have. So yeah, in all the rework, you can't even see the fact that there was actually a skull in between two of these teeth that was just kind of hidden by Rick, 4 or 5 years ago now. So for people who haven't been watching me for that long, there was actually a skull in between all of these. So the teeth have had a lot of rework as well. They've just always been the same idea. So for most people, it doesn't seem like anything has really happened with the teeth, right? And unless you've been watching very closely, I can't blame you for thinking that way. So I'll move on here. Obviously, we did this. Before I move on, I guess I should talk about this a little. The edge of this was outlined, believe it or not, by a 49 mag on its side. We didn't really want to line it because we don't want it that sharp, but we did want it sharper than it was. We didn't want to feather it off. We wanted it to be more like a distinct opening, right? So it's more like a vortex, like it's just kind of, it just kind of digs through the skin or something. But we didn't want it to be so lined out, so it was sort of feathered in with a 49 mag and then filled with a 7 mag to be kind of denser. And then again, most of the color was redone, and then some of the color that was there was gone over with white and black as well. But again, those are 5th pass colors in there now over black, and we wouldn't need the 5 passes if it weren't for the fact that it looked pretty good last time, to be honest. I was happy with the color last time, but can always be better. So it wouldn't necessarily have needed to be done again, but we were already in there, so may as well refine everything. And again, that was a blackout over color and white and black on black, and so it had to be super solid black in there. And doing that way made it very hard to get color over top of it again. But for anyone wondering, if you could black out, cover it, and then black out and cover it again, I have already proved that yes, you can. It's just a lot of work, right? Theoretically, if I lived long enough and was patient enough, I could black out all this stuff and do a whole new bodysuit. In fact, that thought has crossed my mind at times, because if I had have started this work with the knowledge we have now, all of it would look a bit different than it does. Now, in saying that, I'm not unhappy with how any of it really looks right now, and it's always a process of making it better. But I would have laid it all out a little bit more like how we did my back piece. So, with all that said, we also got to, I wasn't sure if we would do it, but we did all the little red and white spots. I showed these off last video. This was not out of necessity. They all aged very well. We already know they aged well, so before anyone can even slag me and say, oh, they were needing a touch-up or some other stupid logic, I showed these off in clear view last time, and it was very easy to see that they had held up amazingly well with no touch-ups. It's just always like, I wonder how bright those can be. Point of fact is, they hadn't been lined in years, something like 3.5 years. And even if we had just done the new black outline around them, it would have helped them a lot. But obviously, we're not just going to do that. We're going to redo them. They don't take that long. And it makes a big difference to do the second and third passes. Some of those red spots were only done once prior, and some were done twice. And I can't remember exactly which ones. But the white was more silver in some, whereas in others it was more of this white. And some of the whitest white I've got, it was in these little eyes. So just adding the black outline, though, would help so much because so much shading and color packing has been done around them and into those lines. And after a while, for the same reason why we had to re-outline the teeth, when you pack color into a line over and over and over again, butting up against that line, some of that color spreads. And actually, interestingly enough, I had some of that color spread into one of these spider eyes at one point. One of them started looking a little purpley blue. Blowouts happen under the skin. Ink will travel. It doesn't always travel much, but sometimes it will. And when you're constantly pushing color up against old outlines, when the outlines aren't as clear as they once were to begin with, those colors can mix into those outlines to some degree, and then before long you have less of a defined edge. It's happened here with the armpits as well, but obviously I'm going to rescue those from the abyss at some point here. It's just always like things in time, you know. And for people who make suggestions like, have you thought about what you're going to do about this thing or that thing? It's like, of course I've thought about it. But I've got a pretty busy fucking schedule as it is. But never think like, oh, he probably hasn't thought about this. It's just about, you know, you see the amount of work I'm having done. It's not like I've got a light schedule, but I will get to the things. If you could see them, damn sure I can see them, right? For example, the spider eyes, same thing. We've done so much color packing into them that at some point here, probably fairly soon, I'm going to go back into those. And if only to re-outline them. I'm not going to explain what I'm planning on doing with them, but they can be further defined. All this purple, blue, and red that we've been punching in here, we did like 4 or 5 sessions of color. It was red, then it was dark blue and dark purple. Then we came in with red and blue highlights. Then we came in with black and light blue highlights. And sorry, there was some light pink added in there at some point. So 4 or 5 color sessions around these things, and so they're not as defined as they can be. And so I do have a plan for that, but I'm not going to get into that today. I'm also planning on doing my nipples again. I think they can be a little bit darker. They've lightened up a little bit in some spots. That will be the 8th time I've done my nipples, and it's only because I'm such a perfectionist with my work that is even a thing that I'm not only entertaining, but will be doing very soon. So, more work to happen down here than just the tentacles, though, I assure you. I knew once I got into my torso, it was going to be like opening a new can of worms, because there was a lot to do. While I'm here, before I talk about the final thing I've got to talk about for this session, this one is all healed up, and it healed up great. The reds are always going to be one that heals easily, so what you see is what you get with red. It did go a little bit more pinky. That was the red mixing with the white. As I've mentioned, the white acts as some kind of a filtering agent. When you mix color into it, it does brighten the color up. It lightens it, but it also takes some of the pop away from it too. So it filters it down a shade or two color-wise to brighten it up. And then finally, we also did this little tentacle over here. So this little baby took about an hour and a half, to be honest. You never know. There's always more intricacy than you can plan for. And tight little details. Some of that white and black that's in there had to be packed with a fucking liner. Rick lays things out in such a peculiar way. And it's very, very hard to do anything quick in his work. So we have these 2 big tentacles left. Oh yeah, I should tell you about the greens that were used in here. We used leafy green, gamma green, and android green. People are always asking me which colors we're using, and it's like, if I haven't made the point by now, I'm gonna say it again. All of these colors are working. Sorry, this stand to give me shit again. All of these colors are working very, very well, and there's no need to use a particular one. The point is experimentation, and like, it's rare that we find a color that doesn't work well. So it's not, the idea is not like, oh, I found this one, this is the only one we're going to use now. The idea is try them all because they all work, right? Like I've almost stopped mentioning the colors we're using because it doesn't really matter. There's only rarely a time where you'll be like, oh, well, that one sucked, and I've mentioned those times. So don't ever use soft white mixing pink or soft light mixing pink or whatever the fuck it's called. It doesn't work at all. It barely works on negative space. It certainly doesn't work on black as a color. I think there's a use for it in mixing different colors together, but as a straight color on black thing, it's pretty much junk tier. Anyway, I've got the two big tentacles on my sides to hit next time, and I'd show them off again here, but we've all seen them a million times by now. I'll put some pictures in. Those are going to be around 5-hour sessions each. Those are my next 2 weeks. And if Terry's got time, I may sneak in a little session here running alongside that either this week or potentially next week, as I have a little more that I would like to get done, and I can't cram that into one of those tentacle sessions. Those are going to be full sessions on their own. There's no way around it. Even when Rick and I did them, it was a long day each time. So they're big boys, and they're still laid out in a way that they have to be addressed as almost like, small details. Take your time, tight liner, fucking little 7 mag in there. There's no room for big mags to get in there and wreak havoc. It's part of why Terry hates working on Rick's stuff, because Terry would lay it out in a big, simple way where things had space to breathe, and Rick is like, every little detail. If there is a detail, it's in there. Even in their realism approach, it's like Terry does this thing where he implies detail. Right? The brain will fill in the gaps. How much information do you need to know it's a fucking tiger? Whereas Rick needs every little piece of the fur has to be just so, It's in everything in their lives this way, It's everyone has a different vision for what something can look like, and whenever you're working on someone else's vision, you have to try and get into their headspace and do things the way they do. And though Terry's adaptive, it's frustrating, and I don't blame him for it. Anyway, I will be talking to you guys again here soon. I think probably after my next session with Rick. But it could be after my next session with Terry. We'll see how it goes. All right, take care.